Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to Lessons with Troy, the podcast. I'm your host, Troy Brenning-Meyer. Well, this week I'm happy to welcome back Alan Akaka for another episode of Hawaiian Steel Guitar Talk Story. We're going to kick off this episode with my attempt at playing his arrangement of the song When Hilo Hattie Does the Hilo Hop. If you want to learn how to play this song, we're offering the tablature, jam track, and performance track on my other site, onlinelessonvideos.com. Also, if you're interested in learning more about playing lap steel, dobro, Weissenborn, or pedal steel, be sure to check out my site, lessonswithtroy.com, where you'll find lots of downloadable video lessons and lots of free samples too. Right now, here's the song When Hilo Hattie Does the Hilo Hop, followed by my interview with Alan Akaka. Welcome to Lessons with Troy, the podcast. I'm Troy Brenning-Meyer. Happy once again to be talking with Alan Akaka, Hawaiian Steel Guitar Talk Story. Let's go ahead and welcome Alan Akaka all the way from Hawaii. How's it going, Alan?
Aloha, Troy, and aloha, everybody. It's nice to be back with you so we can chat. As we say in Hawaiian, we're going to do kuka kuka. In other words, talk story.
Talk story, yeah.
Kuka kuka.
Yeah. So what have you been up to today? I know last time we talked, it was you had the Kauai Steel Guitar Festival, and that's come and gone. I know you're probably preparing for the next one in Maui, but what's going on?
Let me share about the Kauai Steel Guitar Festival first.
Sure.
It was tremendous. It was major success. Even the mayor of Kauai showed up to welcome the crowd, and he was elated. We had people on the open stage from the morning till the afternoon, and they came from all over. I mean, not only from Kauai, but from Canada, from the States, the mainland U.S. And in the evening, we had some great artists, like Jeff Ahoy, Bobby Ngano, Greg Sardina. From Kauai, we had Kirk Smart, who has an amazing son who not only plays a good guitar, but he also writes his own music, and he's a teenager. great talent. Let's see, Kilipaki Vaughn, whose father is the famous Palani Vaughn, a great singer. Kilipaki, by the way, is one of my students. And then also Ed Puno, who is a top steel guitarist on the island of Kauai. So it was great. In fact, when we had to move into the ballroom, the place was so packed, the hotel had to add more chairs.
Nice.
It was fantastic. And for 2 nights, we had jam sessions we call Kanikapila. And luckily, we could go into the bar. There was plenty of room. We could rearrange the furniture. People brought in their ukuleles, guitars, steel guitars, even the bass, or a couple of basses. And we started jamming. And it was fantastic to hear all music, mostly Hawaiian music. And, even the fiddle.
Yeah.
Steel guitar students brought his fiddle. And it was just a fun jam. And so, with that being said, in Maui, we plan to do the same thing. Like you were there last year, and we're going to have a great lineup. But not only one day, but 2 days of open stage, 2 days of evening concerts we call Ho'olaulea, and we're going to have about 12 artists, so 6 on each evening. The artists will be coming from the States as well as from Hawaii and Japan. So it's really exciting. Of course, we're going to have our Kanikapila in the evening too.
Yeah. How late does that end up going? I know last time I didn't check it out, but
Well, it'll go until about midnight because we got to get up early the next morning and start the music again. Yeah, I mean, did you come to any of the Kanikapila?
I didn't. Yeah,
Well, because
I didn't know.
you're stuck on the other side of the island one day. I know. I remember.
Yeah.
But the room gets packed with people. There's lots of music. It goes on till about midnight.
And how does that work? I know, I've been to bluegrass jams and stuff, but what is a typical Hawaiian jam like? Do you go around the circle and call tunes? Are people singing? How does that work exactly?
More or less go around the circle, but somebody may call a tune out of order, which is fine. And then we start the song, sing it, and then whoever wants to take a pa'ani or an instrumental, all they have to do is give us a nod, and then they do it. We try to do it within the circle, and if somebody wants to pass, that's fine. And it becomes really fun. And sometimes we'll go around 2 or 3 times, and so on. So and especially when you have your favorite refreshment next to you, it can be a really good jam session.
And everybody's playing at the same time, or people taking breaks or not really playing? How does that work?
Well, everybody's playing, even the steel guitars, but they know to bring their volume down when somebody else is playing an instrumental. And everybody else, who has a rhythm instrument will be just strumming along or picking along on the bass. And then when it's time to sing, we all sing. Plus, we have a book that we normally use, and we call it the Blue Book. It's packed of songs, Hawaiian songs, and it has chords, and as well as, translation next to the lyrics. The book is about that thick, so we could do a few nights of songs just by flipping through that book. But in many cases, especially if you go to a local party here, nobody brings a book. Everybody starts singing, and if you know the song, you sing along, and many people start harmonizing too. It's great.
Yeah.
It's something that I grew up with, hearing it, people harmonizing. And it seems like here, people are born with that talent. They'll start harmonizing. They'll sing up a third or sing down a fourth. And you hear this 3-part harmony going on, and it sounds like a choir at times. And you can do something like that on the steel guitar as well.
Yeah.
With harmony. In fact, I think Richard had a question about that.
Yeah, we had a couple questions, and you know, for any of our listeners or viewers that's seeing this, you know, if you have a question, let me or Alan know, and we'll try to answer it in the podcast. You know, it's a great way to get your questions answered. So yeah, this one came off Facebook. Richard asks, he says, I seen a video of him and another guy who was playing a fry pan type lap steel, doing a lot of twin stuff. Twin harmonies baffle me. And when he's talking about twin stuff, he means harmonies, like two harmonies. He says, is there a general rule of thumb as a starting point to find harmonies like a third or fifth, etc.? Yeah, that was his question.
Okay, yeah, and Richard and I just became Facebook friends. So aloha to you, Richard. As far as harmony is concerned, what we do here in the islands is we sing in parallels. So the first harmony part that we would want to hear is the third above the melody. Some of the old timers used to call it the tenor part, and then the part below it, down about a fourth normally. Um, the old timers called it the alto part. So if the melody went up, the parts went up. If the melody went down, the parts went down. And I mean that's the general rules. So when it comes to the steel guitar, and he mentioned that he saw somebody with a fry pan. I'm going to guess that was Bobby Engano.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And so Bobby would play the melody, I would play the harmony. Maybe sometimes we would switch, but I'm very comfortable with playing a harmony part. But again, it's knowing the melody and playing the third above. The beauty of the steel guitar, I might add, is that you can slide the bar. So if it's not the right note, you can slide up into the right note.
Yeah.
And try to be sneaky about it, of course. uh, and in order to get that, just like singing, try it out. Follow along while somebody's singing. Try to follow along on your steel guitars. See if you can find the third. Well, if you know the melody and you can play the melody, then try to find a part just above that, and it should sound by itself almost like a melody. Should sound almost like a melody. Now, when you find an instrumental or a vocal that is singing that song and you know the melody, play along with it. Practice. Do it a few times until you get it right. Then you'll start to find patterns. Then you can go from one song to another song with the same basic ideas. And the more you do it, like practicing technique, you'll get it.
Yeah, yeah.
Now I'll tell you what is a little more difficult is when you add a third voice to a steel guitar trio, for example. And so if somebody's playing the melody. Important thing is the person playing the melody got to stick to the melody, and hopefully the person knows the melody, because if not, it can be chaotic. And once that person is set, then the third above can probably find a part. It's a fourth below the alto part that can become a little hairy, but then again, it's something that can be practiced, and eventually you get it. It's like somebody singing by ear. Same thing, you got to work on it. But so, Richard, try it out and see what you get. I know in listening to, say, many rock albums, when there are only two voices, you don't necessarily sing in parallels. It's a little different. But then again, that's a different style of harmony, which works, obviously.
Yeah.
But for us, yeah, it's just parallel, moving parallel together.
So you're not thinking so much, like I know when I play harmonies or improvise, I'm thinking of the chord progression and maybe you can move chord to chord, and especially on lap steel, you can kind of cheat and kind of play notes out of that chord in whatever position you're in.
Yeah, sort of, but and that's important, knowing the chords. However, a lot of locals here in Hawaii who
Yeah.
play steel guitar don't read music, so they have to rely on their ears. And and sometimes, and this is what I grew up with.
Yeah.
Sometimes the harmony note that is being sung is not in the chord, but it still
Oh,
sounds fine.
yeah.
It just works. I have to get over that because I was classically trained. Not on steel guitar, of course, but I was classically trained, so that's a no-no. But you know what? In our Hawaiian music, it works. So
Yeah. So they're definitely thinking more like a singer would think as opposed to like what a instrumentalist would think almost.
right,
Yeah.
right. So Richard, hope that helps.
Well, we got another question. This comes
Sure.
from Aaron Radford, and if any of you don't know Aaron, he has a website called the Weisenborn Information Exchange, and he interviewed me on there, and he has lots of other people too. But it's all about Weisenborn or the Weisenborn style guitar. So he says, where does the hollow neck Weisenborn fit in with Hawaiian culture, past and present?
Well, so the original Hawaiian guitar, or what we call today the steel guitar,
Mm-hmm.
was an acoustic guitar. I mean, not necessarily the Weizenbarn, right? Because the Weizenbarns came out, in the early 20th century, whereas the steel guitar itself first emerged in the late 1800s. And along with the Dobros and the Nationals, yeah, the Weizenbarn was a very, very sweet sounding guitar because it's made of wood. It it sounded very different from the tritone. Um, the Weizenbarn I have, which is from 1929, it sings out very well, considering it doesn't have any cone or tricones,
Yeah.
and sounds very good. So today, in today's music since the 40s and 50s, the electric guitar after it emerged, Rickenbacker, before the war, the electric guitar became the guitar to play. Why? Because it was amplified. It sustained better than the acoustic guitars, and so on. So the ones who actually play the Weizenbarns today are playing more. I'm talking about Hawaiian music now. Are playing more period music, 1920s, 1930s, because it sounds perfect for that sound, better than the electric guitars. And yet, I've used my Weizenbarn at gigs. It for the style I play, it for the music I play too, which is more 40s, 50s. It doesn't fit as well. Maybe it's part the tone. There's no sustain. The kind of things that you might do on an acoustic guitar, you don't necessarily do on an electric guitar because it's the sustain for one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can raise the volume and so on. You don't have to pick so hard. Um,
What tuning do
so
you keep your Weisenborn in?
I use the C6
Okay.
all this time, but I can go to the D tuning. Um, my national is in the D tuning. And speaking of the Weizenborn type guitars, I know there are folks out there who are building them. There's a company here in Hawaii that is building. That's what they build, Weizenborn type guitars, and I believe the name is Eisman,
Yes.
ISMAN.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I just spoke to one of the partners a couple of days ago,
Okay. Okay.
Matthew, and yeah, I did tell him you're the only ones that are building steel guitars regularly here in the islands. I know there are others that build electric guitars, electric steels, but it's not what they normally do. But Eisman does it. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And so
I saw them online. I actually contacted them. They're going to be a future guest on the podcast that we're going to talk all about.
great.
Yeah. Yeah. Their business and Koa Wood and all the just everything Weisenborn. So I'm
Right.
excited to have them on there.
Greg Sardina has one.
I've seen that video on YouTube. He has a video of him playing. I forget what the tune is. I think it might be "On the Beach at Waikiki." I think
Oh,
on that
really?
one. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds good. It's a really good instrument for somebody who wants a Weizenborn style guitar. And I'm sure you can go to eisenman.com. I believe that's their email. I mean their website. But yeah, very nice instruments. Very,
Nice.
very, very nice. Especially with the wood. It looks so rich and so on. But for what I do, the gigs I do, it doesn't really call for a Weizenborn. So as far as what in relationship to Hawaiian culture, well, as far as culture is concerned, the Weizenborn style guitar doesn't have much to do with the culture itself, other than music. And for me, it's more of a certain period, so you don't see very much of it. Although I had students who played that kind of guitar, and they like that style period music. I mean, somebody from Germany, somebody who lives here,
Yeah.
and so on. That's what they wanted, and they wanted me to teach them music from that time period, and not necessarily the music of the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
So
Well, great.
it
Yeah. Thanks, Aaron, for that question. That's a cool
is. Thank you,
question.
Aaron.
Yeah, I had always wondered that too because you always hear the Weizenborn, and we talked about this earlier, being they always call it a Hawaiian instrument. And then the more I listen to Hawaiian music and go to your festivals and things, the more I never really see Weizenborns. It seems electric lap steels are the instruments people are playing.
Well, Greg Sardina, if anybody in any of my contemporaries, is the one who would be playing a guitar like that. I mean, he will.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I mean, I have a National, I have a Weizenborn, I have a Canopus, Japan-made Weizenborn like guitar, which I put a pickup in, and I've used it when I played with Debashish.
Ah,
Yeah, and I did a few concerts with him, and so I used that guitar, um, and it sounded great. But again, it's not so much my sound, but
yeah,
yeah, it sounded very.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we were talking earlier, before we got the podcast started, and you were showing me some sheet music that you had gotten from a. I guess why don't you show our viewers and talk a little bit about this? What you were talking about with me.
Yeah, I was digging around in my files. Uh, I have a cabinet full of music, sheet music, handwritten sheet music as well. Um, and I dug this up. Now the front cover says steel guitar, and then looking through this are songs that were performed. Excuse me, I have to performed by Hilo Hattie herself, and This was the music for the steel guitars, which I was, at least for her last gig. And so I was honored to be invited to play steel guitar for her. I was a young kid. I was really new to the scene, and why she chose me, I don't know. Or anyway, so this was the music off for the show. So as you can see, the introductions and everything, the chords, all written out. These were her hit songs. The people loved hearing them, and she would talk about them, introduce them, and start singing and doing her style dance. So you can see here.
Yeah. So when you're reading these charts, I'm seeing three-part voiced chords and then the chord written above it. How much of that are you sight reading? Are you following the melody, or what's your job when you're reading
My
these?
job is to fill, and in some cases, I would just pretty much play my own fills, but I would follow this format as far as chord progressions.
Okay.
And it was really tough because I was so new on the scene. I could read music. Maybe that's one reason why I was hired. I could read music, whereas many steel guitars here, like I mentioned earlier, could not. So I could kind of follow along. Of course, if I did this today, it would be much different from many years ago. Yeah, that was about in the 70s, so late 70s, I believe. And so, yeah, just a kid. But it was an honor to play with Hilo Hattie, Auntie Clara, and
Now, I don't know anything about her. I mean, what can you inform our listeners too a little bit about her?
her name was Clara Inter, Inter, from the islands, and she was a school teacher. She was hired by uh, let's see, Harry Owens, the famous band leader who came to the Royal Hawaiian Hotel and performed there, who wrote many, 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 many songs like "To You, Sweetheart," "Aloha," "Hawaii Calls," and so on. Um, so if I recall the story, she wanted to do a song. Hilo Hattie, no, somebody had written a song called "Hilo Hattie Does a Hilo Hop." I think it was Johnny Noble, Don McDermott, and one other person. And so I don't think they wanted her to do that, but she did it anyway, and the people loved it. And so she took on the name of Hilo Hattie. I guess somebody called her Hilo Hattie,
Ah,
not
okay.
knowing her real name. So she kept the name; it became hers legally, and she used it as a stage name, of course. Um, and people around the world remember that name, Hilo Hattie. And she was in. Well, she moved to the mainland. She followed Harry Owens. Uh, she was. You could see YouTube videos of her performing on Harry Owens' television show on KTLA. I believe it was Channel 4 back then in those days when there were much fewer channels.
Mm-hmm.
All black and white shorts, and she's dancing. She's singing. I mean, she looks great and everything. So she did the mainland circuit and so on, doing her hit songs. She was in movies in Hollywood. So she really made a name for herself. Well, anyway, so she returned back home, and she moved to an area called Ka'ava, which is on the North Shore, and she lived there with her husband, Carlisle Nelson, who is a violinist, and he also played some steel guitar. So um, before she fully retired, she did one last stint at the Halekulani Hotel, and I was her steel guitarist. I was given this music. I was given this music to learn and so on, and they never asked for it back, so I kept it. So it should go in the Smithsonian, but right now I have it in the Kaka Museum here.
There you go.
Along with a lot of other great music, handwritten music by Benny Kalama, who I played with at the Halekulani for years, like, for about almost 20 years. And, he taught me a lot about music, because he was the band leader for Hawaii Calls, the music director for Hawaii Calls. Some of these arrangements that you hear on the albums were his arrangements. Fantastic, the singing and everything. He would take the lead sometimes, but more than that, he would sing above the melody. Yeah, he had a great ear, great ear. I mean, just a little side note. When we used to drive down to Waikiki, because we both lived in Kailua,
Yeah.
I would have the radio tuned out to the Hawaiian station, and he would start humming an obligato part. It's a part like a violin obligato, which kind of weaves around the melody. Doesn't necessarily follow the melody, but chord wise, it does. And I thought it was the most amazing thing. He could hear that,
Wow.
and so on. Considering he didn't go to college for music, everything he learned was from high school and on the street. He could write music and so on. So anytime a new song came out, he would handwrite it.
Really?
The melody and his penmanship was so neat and clean, with all the words and everything, the lyrics. I mean, So I got part of his collection, so I guard it, dearly. Um, and I have music from others, Sonny Kamahele, who I used to play with too, some of his handwritten music, as well as some other composers around here, originals, some that actually became hits.
Yeah. Do you have
So,
Jerry Bird tablature that he wrote out for you?
I have that, and I have some music. Jerry Bird wrote some arrangements for a group. Like we did some recordings together, and in one in particular, Islands Call, one of my CDs featuring Alan Akaka and the Islanders, he wrote out all of the steel guitar tabs for me, Barney Isaacs, and him, because we're a trio on the album.
Ah.
And it's the only album ever with a trio of Hawaiian steel guitarists. And then he wrote the music for the band too, all the arrangements. Turned out great.
Now what's
Really,
that?
really,
What's
really
that
good.
album? I haven't heard that one.
Oh, it was produced here, and it was financed by a Japanese company, JVC, or
Ah,
Victor Music Company in Tokyo.
yeah.
And so it was sold mostly there, and so on.
Nice.
I wonder if I have. Somebody sent me a copy. If you hold on a moment,
Yeah.
let's see if I can find it. I don't know if I have it here or not. I have it somewhere.
Yeah.
Um,
I've told you before I use Spotify, a lot of times because it's just so easy to find
it,
music, but a lot of albums like that are
it,
kind of
it,
hard to find. It'll never.
well, no. You know, maybe we can talk about it another time, but I
Sure.
don't see it here. I have it somewhere. Um, Somebody actually, I guess years ago, bought a whole bunch, and he sent me an unopened copy, which I might have put in a secret place because I can't find it. Oh, I tell you what, I have so many things here. Um,
I got to get a chair like yours. I love that. You can push the arms up.
I have this by
Oh,
Johnny
cool.
Farina.
Nice. I've never seen that one. It's
Yeah.
autographed too. Look at
When
that.
yeah, he autographed it and gave it to me the last time I saw him in St. Louis at Scotty's convention. Oh, here it is.
Cool.
Unopened. Take a look at that.
Oh my gosh.
Jerry, Barney, and me. Islands Call.
Wow. I gotta buy that from you. If you got extras, I'd love to get a copy of that.
Well, I tell you what, my friend in Japan may have. Yeah, it's a classic album. Maybe I can, maybe, have it reprinted and so on. I mean,
Yeah. At least put it on
really
iTunes or something. You'd
collect
think.
collector's item. It really is because just about everybody on that recording is gone,
Oh.
except for maybe two, possibly three of no, two of us. There's only two people on that entire album that is still around, and it's hard to see. I'm going to show you, but you see that group of people,
Yep. Yep.
many members of the Hawaii Calls group. That's why I called it Islands Calls. So it was a reunion of singers and musicians, and they're gone. They're
Wow.
all gone. And these were the people I played with. So
Yep.
amazing, just amazing. So anyway, for Auntie Clara, as I used to call her,
Okay.
although everybody else knew her as Hilo Hattie. Yeah, Auntie Clara, and she spoke she was fluent in the Hawaiian language. And, interesting, many people from the islands moved to the States, and I'm sure they use their language amongst their own groups. Um, and they spoke English, of course. But it would be so neat to hear the Hawaiian language, somewhere else other than Hawaii. And yeah, she could just spit it out. In fact, she did that on one of the YouTube videos with Harry Owens. She and another famous hula dancer who lived in Hollywood as well, Napua Woods. She wrote a song that became a huge hit, Haleiwa Hula. And her granddaughter is one of the music icons here today. Um, what's Yeah, I'm trying to think of her name. Anayali Gilliam. Oh gosh, somebody will tell me afterwards after they view this.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I can see her. I know her. We're Facebook friends. Um, Amy,
Okay.
Amy Anayali Gilliam. Yeah. So anyway, so I remember Auntie Jenny and Auntie Clara speaking Hawaiian on TV. I mean,
Oh,
just a
cool.
little short something.
Yeah, yeah.
Great to hear. Great to hear. But anyway, what I did too, because I found this, is I wrote out a tab arrangement for when Hilo Hattie does the Hilo Hop, and even though it wasn't written for her, it's because of that song that she became Hilo Hattie.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a fun song, with the lyrics and everything. And there's some words in there that we would never use in Hawaii. Not that they're not bad words. It's just words that we would. In fact, I don't think we use those words today in our English language. It's dated, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, it's a great song, and
Sure.
I can play a little of it right now,
Sure.
so
Yeah.
people can hear what it sounds like. Um, let's see. Let me pick up my trusty steel guitar,
There we go.
and I'm gonna lower my camera. So just to give folks an idea, uh, and then we'll make the music, the tab, as well as the backing track available.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
so if anybody wants to, learn this song, yeah. So it goes. So that's basically it. Parts of this are on the tab. Okay. I wrote it. It's about a medium level, so that if somebody, even beginners can attempt to play it. Those who play well, it should be easy for you.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I always
So
enjoy these arrangements we're sharing on the online lesson videos. It's really cool. Man,
yeah.
what
Well,
what's
I
yeah,
don't know. I'm going to challenge you to go ahead and learn it, and then make a recording of it for the audience. I don't know if you'll have time. You're a busy man, but you did a great job on Song of the Islands
oh,
in our last podcast.
that's a huge
So
compliment. Your voice is always going in my head. It's about the patas and smoothing every note out. Oh boy, you would not believe how many takes I tried to do to just get that. I'll admit this. I'll actually admit this because some people. But I was using Pro Tools, and instead of me playing through the whole tune, I would get one little section and I would play that until I finally got it smooth enough. Then I'd move on
really,
to the next section.
oh, is that how you did it? No wonder it sounded great. In fact, just for your audience here, um, talking about the sweet spot on the bar right over
Okay.
here. And actually, two things I want to cover. The sweet spot on the bar makes a big difference when you're playing. It sounds so thin when you get close to the rounded part. As you get towards the center of the bar, you can actually hear a slight change in tone. So I never play with the rounded part unless I have to, because I'm always looking for a nice fat rich tone. The other thing too, and I see this with many players, is kind of as they move, it's like somebody's doing fingerings on a fretboard on a guitar or ukulele,
Okay.
where the pressure is taken off the bar. I'm not talking about necessarily lifting the bar. I'm talking about I can hear a little buzz. So two things, play in the sweet spot right around here in the center of the bar,
Mm-hmm.
as well as maintain the pressure on the bar. And even it's important for the bar pressure, when you go into slants, maintain that bar pressure, or kind of lean into the next note, just slightly, not much. Because if you don't, this might happen. You hear that little buzz, or you may lose a note, which you don't want. And it's all about sustained connecting, connecting all the notes within the phrase.
Yeah. Now, I had a comment on my version of Song of the Islands, and I think you made this comment too. Maybe some of our listeners do this too, but he said that I sounded more country than Hawaiian, and he said because I didn't have the Hawaiian style vibrato. I don't know if you have anything to,
I thought you sounded pretty good tone wise. Your approach to the slides, you slow on. Yeah, the vibrato is very important. Very important. Not too fast, not too slow. Obviously, you don't want to sound like you just went around in circles 100 times.
Yeah.
And you don't want to sound like what Jerry Bird would say, a mosquito. There's something like this.
Okay. That's the sound right there. That's what I'm trying for. Yeah, that vibrato is so crucial, I think, to getting that sound.
Absolutely. It's a little bits, little parts. You put them all together, and you get that Hawaiian sound, so characteristic of Hawaiian music and musicians of yesterday. It's that sweetness of tone of Hawaii.
Yeah. Well, very good, Alan. We're probably approaching the end.
Absolutely. So anyway, I enjoyed this podcast with you. I'm enjoying everyone with you, Troy.
Yeah, well, thank you. I am too. It's a joy, and I really feel like it's very cool to document all these stories and songs, and I can just see this keep going. Hopefully, as long as we both can do it,
Absolutely. Well, let's continue. And to the folks out there, if you have any questions, please ask. If I can share something, I will. If I can answer your question, I will. I'll do whatever.
Very good.
So,
very good.
Anyway, thank you, Troy, and thank you to all the listeners out there. Hope you have a beautiful Hawaiian day. It's awfully cool over here. It's probably in the lower 70s.
Yep.
That's why I have to bundle up, as you can see.
Yeah. You know what? What's outside my window right now is about, 4 inches of snow. We got.
Oh, ouch.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, if I want to freeze, I'll go into my freezer. But right now, I'm comfortable right now, but I do have to bundle up.
Well, thanks so much, Alan. It's always a pleasure.
Take care, and to you and everybody, aloha.